Hello everyone, welcome to VBA Beyond Basics. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. In the last video, we coded through a macro calling another macro, and we moved Mr. Ahmed from his home to his office. But before going forward, there are some conceptual programming techniques which I want you to know. So today, we are going to talk about those techniques. So first of all, let's discuss what is public versus private. I have touched this topic a bit in the previous video, but today I am going to discuss in detail. Conceptually, you need to understand that public and private applies to macros, functions, and variables. Yes, these three types can be public as well as private. When we talk about macros, private macros don't appear in the list of macros. And the last thing you need to remember is that anything declared private will work in the same module. That module will be the whole world for that macro or function or variable. It cannot go beyond that module. Let's see how this works. Let's go to Excel now. All right, here is the Excel. Let me get the Visual Basic editor also. Here it is. So we have our Visual Basic editor. Let me show you both windows at one time. Yeah, we can just have a module. And what is the font size? I think you can see, but let me adjust it to where is that? Tools, options, general, editor format, and this is 18. Let's make it 24. Let's see if this works. Yeah, this is better. Okay, so first let's create a macro sub test mac1. The name is test mac1, and let's say msg box test message. Okay, and let's create another macro by just copying pasting, and let's call it test mac2, and this is message communicated, right? So if I run this macro, this is running, and if I run macro 2, this is also running. So perfectly all right macros, but if I go to developer and list of macros, my both macros are present. I hope you can see this. This is test mac1, this is test mac2. So what if I declare test mac2 as private? Okay, so I have written just private before the word sub, and this is now a private macro. And if I go to developer, and you can see now there is only one macros. So by declaring a macro private, we restrict its access. So then how we can access this? If I say F8, it is running. Okay, it is not appearing in a list of macros, but how to run them? Then we can call it from another macro. within the same module. If I say sub test mac2, and if I run this from macros, the macro number 1, this is from the test message is from the macro number 1, and this is from the macro number 2. Okay, so you can see that within the module this macro has called this second macro. What if I add another module, insert another module, this is module 2, and copy this macro in module 2, paste, and then try to run. Now the second macro is, the both macros are into different modules, okay, and the macro 1 is going to call the macro 2. So developer macros macro 1 run. So there is a compile error, sub or function not defined, because this test macro 2 is outside the world of module 2. Its world is only limited to module 1. So this is the restriction the word private has added. Anything which is not private, it is public, it is global, it is available to everyone. So with adding of the word private, we restrict the access to that module only. Okay, so we are back in module 1. So let's create a function, and the function is simple function. uh, uh, let's say add 10, we add 10 is equal to 10, right? No calculation, just if I say in, let's say, C8 is equal to v add 10, and whatever number I give it, 4, the answer would always be 10. But I have to declare some variable here. So if I don't declare a number here, just say add 10, the answer would be 10. So the function is running. I hope this is clear. The function is running. It is giving us the answer because we have to assign a value to the function name, and we have done it. What if I say private function? So if this is a private function, now what will happen? If I say is equal to v add, there is no function appearing in Excel. VAD, there is no function. So as soon as I declare a function private, it is gone. The Excel, we cannot access it from Excel sheet, but we can access it within the modules. How that is done, let's see. So in Mac 1, let's say message box, instead of test message, let's say we add 10. So if I run this macro, this should give me number 10, and here it is. So same concept, anything which is not private is public, and once it is private, there is a restriction, and the restriction is that you can use that function within that module only. Okay, so its world is restricted to that module. But there is one exception to this general rule, and that is you can call a private macro in other module with some different syntax. For example, if I say sub test and I say application dot run, and I say within inverted commas module 1 dot, and what was the name of our private macro? Let's see, and that was vtest2 mac2 control C in module 2. Okay, so application dot run, and then you have to give the path, like the when we refer a file, we say c colon backslash users backslash this backslash, we give a full path. So that here we have to go give the name of the module in which that private macro is present, and if we run it now, so this will run like this. Okay, so generally private macros cannot be called, but if you want to call them, you have to give the full address, full location with reference to the module name, and you have to use application.run. So let's talk about the last thing. We have talked about macros and functions, and what about the variables? How do variables are public or private? So let's insert a module to understand this concept, and let's create a new macro sub first macro, and then we declare a variable. Let's say variable is my value, and that is equal to, let's say, 12. And let's call another macro secmac is our second macro sub secmac, and this is going to display my value. So MSG box v my value. So what is going to happen is I'm going to run the first macro. First macro will assign a value to the variable my value, and then it is going to call the second macro, and the second macro is going to display a message box with my value. So let's run it. My value is currently 12, and let's run second macro again, f8. So give it a thought. What's going to be displayed in the message box? Is it going to be 12? The answer is no, because in the second macro my value has no value assigned. So this is an empty variable in the second macro. So principally, when we talk about variables, unlike macros and functions, their default is private. They are not publicly available. So the world of variable is restricted to its module. Its value is not passed to the second or any other macro. So how we can declare a public public variable, and that is not called public variable, that is called global variable. So it's very simple. So if I say dim dimension, I'm giving a dimension that is global dimension, and you see this dimension is not within a macro. This is going to be before the word sub. So it's this dimension or this declaration is for this whole module. Dimension v my value. So this is declaration, and that's it. I have declared a variable, and this is global. This can be used in first macro, and this can be used in second macro. So the benefit is whenever a value is assigned to v my value, that value is retained. For example, If I run, sorry, not the second macro, if I run my first macro, is it going to be displayed? Let's see. We have 12. So with, with declaration of a global variable, I can store a value, and that value is available to all the macros in that module. Okay, your assignment is to test a third macro, and that third macro has to be run manually. Okay, it is not going to be called by first macro or the second macro. That is independent macro, and it will display uh, v my value. So is it going to be 12? Is it going to be blank? What it is going to be, that's your job to find out. So this is your assignment. Third macro, and that is exactly going to be this code of second macro, that is message box v my value, and you are going to run it, and you are not going to call it from another macro or the first macro. Okay, let's move to our next slide, and that is implicit versus explicit declaration. So what is implicit and explicit declaration? Principally, as you see, I've declared in the last macro we discussed a dimension dim. So before that, we were not declaring any variable. So that was implicit. Implicit means that whatever the first value stored in that macro will be the type of that macro. For example, if I say vchair is equal to 2, Excel will understand that vchair is a numeric variable. And if I say vchair is equal to Windows 87, so Windows 87 is a string, it's a text. So Excel will understand that this variable is a string variable. Its type is string. So we will discuss about types, but implicit versus explicit is the declaration of the type of the variable that we have to do. Okay, so I don't use this, but generally the programmers do it. So you need to understand that whenever you go to the net or the web, you will find lots of help and that help is generally developed by programmers, and they use the explicit version. They declare their variables, and this is a very good practice, so that this helps that in future when you go and read your macro, it is very easy to understand what macros what variables have been used. So in the last uh, module, in the last workbook, what we did was we declared a public, a global variable. But we can declare a variable inside a macro, not outside, not global, but specific to that macro. Let's open Excel and see how it is done. So this is my Excel, and where is my VB? Let me get away. Yeah. So let's insert another module. Yeah. Okay. Now let's say sub v, and let's call it next macro, next mac, and say v my value is equal to 99 and msg box be my value. So this is simple how we do it. If I run it, it simply runs. But I am talking about declaring. So I am going to tell Excel specifically what my value is. DIM, so this time dimension is after the word sub. Be my value as integer. So we will talk about what is integer. So and the value is 99, and if I run it, it's run perfectly. But what if I say my value as string? It's a string. This means that it is going to contain some text. What if I run this now? It's still 99. But if I say 99 plus 88, is it going to run? Because 99 is also text. So it has accepted 99 as text. But if I say, oh, this is still working. But if I say, no, it should not work actually. It's a string. And if I say first time it is 99 and the second time it is going to be, I think this should not work, my value plus 88. So this time there should be an error. Oh, it's still working, but it's 88. You see, my value plus 88, it should be 99 plus 88, but now the result is 88. So uh, there is no error, but the addition, the calculation is not done. Okay, so this is about how to declare a variable. So and it has impact. Uh, what type we select has an impact. Okay. There is another thing. We can force Excel to check whether we have not declared a variable or not. Okay. So this is done because till now what we were doing is we were not declaring, but we want Excel to ask for declaration every time. Every variable should be declared. So it to do it, we go to tools. I hope you can see tools, options. In editor tab, there is a second require variable declaration. So if we choose require variable declaration and then insert another module, and you can see this is option explicit automatically written. This means that we have exercised our option that all variables should be explicit, they should be declared. So let's try to run a macro. New Mac. I am getting out of names. New Mac, and let's say the chair is equal to 100 and msg box v chair. I have not declared what is chair, and let's see if there Excel is going to give an error. And as soon as I pressed F8 key, there was a compile error, variable not defined. So I have to define this variable either here or either before the sub or after the sub. Is it global or not? So let's say v dimension v chair is equal as integer, okay, and let's try to run it. And it is perfectly all right. So this is how it is done. If we don't declare, it is implicit. If we declare, it is explicit. And we can force Excel to ask for declaration. And declaration is good. Declaration is always good. It helps understand uh, what variables are present in our macro and what is their type. So let's talk about the type. So here are the data types, and if you can see, this is, let me get away. Now you can see it. Okay, so the data type is two types, basically numeric and non-numeric. If we declare, we used integer, but if we say byte, it's going to take 1 byte of the RAM or the hard disk space, and it can have a minimum value of 0 and a maximum value of 255. If we say integer, integer is of 2 bytes and it ranges from 32,768 negative to positive 32,767. If 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 we say our variable is long, it's 4 bytes and minus 2.1 million to positive 2.1 million. And if it is single, again it's 4 bytes, it will take 4 bytes, but the range is very, you can see this is exponent plus 38, so it's a huge number, and double is 308 plus 308, so it's again a huge number, and the currency is again 8 bytes. It's negative, this is what, this is million, this is billion, and this is trillion. Okay, so negative 922 trillion to positive 922 trillion. And if we say decimal, it's going to be 12 bytes, and it's going to save up to 28 decimal places. Plus and minus this is again like million, billion, trillion, and I lost what zillions this have has. So why this is necessary, and what is the relevance of this bytes? You see, we don't use Excel as a database, and generally we are not concerned how big is our file, how much megabytes there are. But when the programmers develop a database, and that database huge, like Oracle Financials or SAP or Microsoft Dynamics, these are the ERPs. Even at that time, one single byte matters, because that byte is going to take space on your hard disk, that byte is going to take space in your RAM, and we all know that we have very limited RAM. So if the data which can cover 4 bytes, it covers 12 bytes, so 8 bytes are just wasted. So the programmers are very specific about, when they declare variables, they give it a right type so that it can occupy the memory efficiently. So let's talk about the non-numeric data types, and these are string. I just used the string, and the length is 1 to 65,400 characters. Then there is a string with 2 billion characters. Then there's a boolean. Boolean is just true or false. You cannot have any other value. Then there is date, January 100 to December 31 quart nines is the date range. And then there is an object. What is an object? Have you seen object somewhere? Let's go to Excel. Where is Excel? Where is my Excel? I think I closed it. So let's go to Excel. Let's go to developer, and here you see Microsoft Excel objects. So I am going to talk about the objects in the next series of the videos, but objects are very important. Objects take 4 bytes, and this is an embedded object. And if you notice that Excel objects was sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, this workbook, we will talk about it. And then there is variant, and that's numeric. It takes 16 bytes, any value as large as double. What was double? Double was here. This is 8 bytes. And then variant text, length is 22 bytes, same as variable length string. So this was about the data types, and this was necessary because when we go back to that MS case study, and we have to move our car from home to office and from office to home, there is going to be one issue, and that issue is when we are going to call and pass the values, the variables are going to change uh, their value, and we what we want is that variable should not change their value. I will discuss that in the next video, but uh, the concept I want to give you about the data types, variables, and declaration. And there is one another thing, and that is the constant variable type. The variable changes value, but there is a constant variable. What is the constant variable? Constant variable is a variable that doesn't change its value. Once a value is assigned, it will retain that value. We cannot change that value. Okay, so let's try this out. And where is the Excel? Let's turn. So here we are, insert a module, insert, where is module? Okay, so let's turn this off also. Options, editor, turn it off, and insert another module. Okay, so in this module, I say sub test macro, and let's say v chair is equal to 77, and v chair is equal to v chair plus 9, and again let's display it, message box v chair. Okay, so this is the code. If I run this, it should run and it should display 86. You can see that. Okay, and let's say I'm going to declare dimension v chair as integer, and what if I say constant? I add the word constant, and I would not say dim. What that is? Oh, sorry. I have to, I think, do it this way. Constant. Okay. The first assignment, I use the word constant with the first assignment, and if I run this, if I try to run this, you can notice that assignment to constant not permitted. So I can say that this variable is going to keep its value and it's not going to change by just adding the word const. So this is the conceptual video today, and let me get back to the slides. So today we have discussed about public versus private, macros, functions, variables, how to declare a variable implicitly and explicitly, what are data types we can declare. These are the numeric types and non-numeric types, and how to assign a value to a variable that will remain constant. So If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video.